when you are growing up in a certain tradition that knows already that you have certain generational traumas, or that you've come in the world to be who you are, it allows you to grow with the understanding, because there's certain rituals, there's certain rites of passages, there's certain things that you're being prepared for within your culture.
Yeah.
And so that allows you to then be accountable, so that you're not open, because what happens when I'm reading is that some of us who come are sensitive, and as they say, oh, you're overly sensitive, you're highly sensitive, and they make it out to be a negative thing. What that sensitivity means is that we are open to receive the messages through and between the unseen and the seen.
Yeah.
And so, of course, we're going to be susceptible to things that make us look odd to people who don't understand or are not receptive to that. And so, an individual who's growing through a world that is this type of society, that has none of these traditions, has none of this culture, actually denigrates it, actually thinks that it's primitive. It's like, we have to realize that we're fulfilling a certain narrative that does not belong to us. And so we can't be accountable really for our actions. That's why there's a lot of, putting off your problems into things outside of yourself. And so you then are not accountable. It's like you'll deal with that, and then, like, when you're dead, or you'll at another time, when it's about being present, it's about being in the now.
For questions, comments, and to show your support, visit us on the web at afroempath.com.
So thank you for your patience.
Oh, not a problem. Shoot, I made you wait yesterday, so it's only fair.
No worries.
So yeah, I guess we'll begin. Like, so when you joined the Facebook group, I snooped on your profile and saw you had a YouTube page.
Yes.
And I checked it out, and I saw you up there speaking my language. I was like, oh man, she really gets it, and like you were saying earlier, with the whole technology thing, like, how do I put it? I know for us as empaths, like, we are always we are constantly battling with our nervous systems. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Like, always, constantly. Like, before I got on here, I was meditating. Like, Lewis, like, send to yourself. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I understand exactly.
So for us to get on, and like I don't show my face, but you actually are showing your face. You know what I'm trying to say? I know that that's very difficult to do, and takes a lot of fortitude and courage. And I know you're not doing it for yourself and for selfish reasons. So when I saw that, I really respected that, and I said, okay, she's doing that. She's doing this to raise awareness. You know what I'm trying to say? Because she's gone through something in her life, and she doesn't, she's doing to others as she would have them have, wish she would have done, so someone would have had done for her. You know what I'm trying to say? So
yeah.
So I kind of want to talk about that, really, like, your journey of self-discovery, and then from there I kind of want to go into, like, kind of Western thought versus kind of our ancient thought, because I feel, and I'm sure you feel the same way, that a lot of people that are diagnosed with a lot of these, could be from, I know for me it was ADD, and then I think it was like oppositional defiant disorder, I think it's called, and then later on they even diagnosed me with autism. So I know you've had some diagnoses or misdiagnoses, so let's first, if you wouldn't mind, let's first go into your early childhood, and then like this whole empath thing. Did you realize it's something you like? I know we always kind of know that we're different, but like, let's talk about your growing up, and you're going through the system, and when you got your diagnosis. 'Cause I know you speak on the page of like depression and bipolar and things like that, and then how this whole how did that begin to, how did you realize you're an empath begin to play into your thoughts of yourself versus the labels that were put on you?
Oh, well, thank you. I first want to say that I appreciate you reaching out, and in the first place, having the courage yourself to have these kinds of conversations and to put yourself out there in any way, shape, or form, because it's allowing for us to reach the community that we're not able to because some of us are dispersed and isolated and all of those things. So I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
And, to touch on what you said about, yes, putting yourself out there as an empath. For myself, those in my local community, those that have grown up with me from kindergarten, high school, all of these things, they know to a certain extent my temperament and my behavior and the levels of privacy that I experience.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to, yes, show my face in this way and to have such conversations, it does take a lot. However, since I was a little girl, now that I come to understand the word empath, I see that I've always been that person. I have always been the person in my family and in groups and settings to want to have the conversations that people don't want to have.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always, and no matter what age, have had people come up to me of all walks of life, of all ages, to share with me secrets about or things they would never feel the comfort to speak about with other people.
Yeah.
So to say how I got here and how I know all of this, I will say that I'm very grateful and appreciative that I grew up with having the knowledge of self through my first teacher. I would consider to be my father. He went through his own transition of life, of going through his own free thought and wanting to align to what we call, nature, spirit, and ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
Rasta type of living.
You said Rasta, you said?
Yeah, Rastafari, like
Gotcha.
from Jamaica.
Yeah, gotcha.
So
I thought I heard an accent in your voice. So
yeah, so I'm pretty much born and raised Canadian.
mm-hmm.
But my father and my mother, they are, of the Jamaican, Caribbean type of culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fortunate because my father raised us to what we call roots, raised us to know our roots and appreciate that, love that. And so even though I had a certain type of conditioning in the Canadian way of being, there was an aspect that I could never let go of or forget because I was raised to know thyself.
Mm-hmm.
However, society and my human nature wanted me to fit into certain things. And so in the struggle to fit in and to dismantle my authenticity at every aspect or avenue of my way of life,
mm-hmm.
that's where I realized that I had to stop doing that because it was making me sick.
Mm-hmm.
So I can tell you that I pretty much have been living kind of life where I allowed society, I allowed myself to be bullied, I had no accountability in my life. I would put the blame on other people. And I started to realize at some point that I had to become accountable and that I'm a common denominator. And that clicked for me in 2014. And that's when I met some naturopaths that came from Antigua. And they really changed the lives of my sister and my family. And from there, these are the things that started to awaken me to realize that from a little girl, I've had a certain knowing, and that now there's something calling me to return to that knowing and to do better and to be better.
I'm feeling all of that. I'm feeling all of that. So okay, let's go into your give me an idea of your childhood. Do you you posted on the Facebook like a bunch of lists of things that we I guess you was calling gifts, spiritual gifts. I'm trying to say, did you because some empaths have spiritual gifts early on and know that, I'm trying to say, and yeah. some of them may have based on certain dogmatic or Western thoughts may have certain feelings about that, based upon how their family perceived them. Did you? I know personally, I didn't have necessarily any gifts. I just was really intuitive. But how did you have any gifts, or how did you other than just your thought? How did you know you're different at an early age?
I would say that being a child.
Mm-hmm.
And learning and remembering that when you observe children, and when I return to my childhood, I'm remembering that children, they come already with this type of exuberance, this type of knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe not all children, sometimes they say, okay, those kinds of children, they're autistic, the ones that are a bit more quiet and are maybe not so extroverted in society.
Mm-hmm.
However, they seem to also have their own type of knowing and discernment and understanding that they don't want to do something or they do want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that for myself, I just came into the world feeling like I want to mediate with people. So from a little girl, I can only say that one of my things I remember is just having a knowing about, okay, I should go left. Let's make it my intuition. I should go right. I should say certain things to certain people, or I have a knowing that this is going to be the answer to that. Or, I think of someone, they appear, the typical things that we hear about our intuition.
Yeah.
But I would say that my spiritual gift, I don't know what it's called, but I know my spiritual gift is that I can think it and it can appear and it can make things happen, whether it's good or bad. And I know that they're connected to my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't necessarily give the exact detail of the story because I want to respect the integrity of my family and not say their names and be too descriptive.
Yeah.
But I must have been maybe between the ages of 6 and 8. And I know that there was someone in my family that really was bullying me. They were, really bullying me in a way where just demeaning me, making me feel small, making me feel little. And I was really hurt by it. And I remember my thoughts were that I was very angry. I wanted them to leave me alone. And I just remember the thoughts, I just wanted them to just disappear. And what ended up happening to that person is they ended up in the hospital. And when I got to the hospital and I saw them there, I was, in tears about it. And I wanted, like, my thoughts changed. Like, I was like, wow, like, really want them to get better. And this is like so terrible and all that stuff. And, within 24 hours, they were better. So I would say that I've had those experiences throughout my life that when people, places, and things disrupt me to a point where I'm really sad or upset about it, things can happen. And if I'm really happy and, in a good space, great things can happen for myself and people involved. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that gift or what that is called, but I know that I have access to that.
I think that's just being a powerful, old soul. You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Mm-hmm.
our, I can put it as an old soul. I'll just put it that way, right? Like, everybody has thoughts. You know what I'm trying to say? But not everybody's thoughts are powered by a great passionate heart. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Now that heart, the heart has an electromagnetic field. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
So this world's an illusion. It's something we're playing out. The dream we're playing out, right?
Oh yes.
So we're the co-creators and the projectors of this holographic universe that we call life. So
Yes.
us as empaths, like we have just greater magnetic pull. You know what I'm trying to say? In the illusion.
Yes.
That's pretty much all what that is. Now, like you said something about the quiet kid, I was later diagnosed with autism when I was, or I should say on the autistic spectrum when I was I think it was in my 30s, right? Like my early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was a young child, a teacher came to my mother and said that he's very quiet. He keeps himself. He doesn't speak to the rest of the children. Mm-hmm. I think he might have autism or be autistic. I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. So this is early on. My mother didn't, nobody quite knew what it was, but my mother said that they wanted to put me in a situation where I wouldn't be around the other kids. I'd just be, drawing, coloring with crayons. I'm trying to say by myself. And so she said, no, I'm not going to allow that to happen. I'm trying to say. So she didn't. Yeah. So that's good. But I'm just saying, like, to people listening that, like, a lot of times people that are spiritually gifted, I know I just interviewed that sister, Nicole Livingston, and she was saying that when she was a kid, she used to do some far out stuff, like go look at the, like spirits and things like that, and angels, and playing outside. You know what I'm saying? Just get up and like, just probably look ridiculous to her peers. I'm trying to say, like, so I'm just saying that sometimes I think it's important to educate people. You know what I'm trying to say? Because we kind of have to be a voice for the voiceless. You know what I'm trying to say?
Oh yes.
So, yeah, let's talk about your your naturopathic journey. Like, what did you go in there to the naturopath saying you had issues with? Like, I know a lot of us, almost all of us, are probably diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder at some point.
Yeah.
Even to say, I know I was.
Yeah.
Like, what did you go in there saying you had, and what advice did she give you, and how did that change your mindset and help you bring to the point you're on now?
Okay, so I'm so excited to talk about this
Yeah.
part. Oh, I'm so excited to talk about all of it, but
Mm-hmm.
this lends into being a voice for the voiceless.
Mm-hmm.
So as a woman, we experience different things that go on throughout our body.
Mm-hmm.
What Black women need to recognize is that if you're experiencing pain in your womb, whether it's that time of the month or not, you need to pay attention to that. And so what I can say is at 14, experiencing what we experience, our periods for the first time, from then it was extremely painful for me. So when I was in 2014, this is years now, I should, have a different kind of experience with that. It was getting worse. So what
Mm-hmm.
led me to the naturopath is that I remember having one of the worst ones of my life that literally I was just on the ground in pain. And like you said, we're connected to the universe. So at the time, I didn't have a spiritual, I wasn't a part of any religion,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew that I needed to call out to something and somebody, and I knew I would get a response. So my calling out was, I don't know who I'm talking to, I don't know what exists out there, but wherever I came from, whatever it is that knows and sees and is watching and is waiting for the moment that I'm going to call and ask for your help, know that I'm asking for your help now. And whatever it is that I have done in my life, I'm asking for forgiveness. I said that I cannot live the rest of my life with this kind of pain. I said this kind of pain is not natural. It's not normal. I don't know where it comes from. I don't want it. I don't like. That's the levels of. I'm saying it in this way for whoever's hearing to understand. When you get to a level of having enough, the verbiage that one uses and where you go and how it feels to be to that point.
Yeah.
It was that led me to get there. So from there, this is the power of how things work, and there's no coincidences.
Yes, absolutely.
It was less than a month after I did that these naturopaths came, like our spirit angels, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
from Antigua. And the man and woman, again, I won't say their names just to protect everyone, but those who know me know who I'm talking about. And they came into our lives, not specifically for us, they came to our community, and they too felt a calling for our community, and they came with the knowledge. They offered, and the knowledge they came with is with nature, using natural indigenous modalities where they can read your body, and also they have their gifts where they have discernment and intuition in a way where they can just read and sense and know who you are. And then with their skills of being able to actually read your body, like through iridology, they were able to read my iris and see that I had experienced trauma. So I went there for, I'm thinking something at the service, meaning just my physical, and then they were able to recognize that you've experienced a trauma in your childhood, and thereafter that also is a part of what's going on within your womb and within your whole entire life that
Yeah.
you're living.
Yeah.
So that's what my experience was like with that.
Wow. That's powerful.
Mhm.
Because I know I know for me, I've had a moment like that where I was like, for me, it was when I was in a jail cell. I always tell people this, so they're probably tired of hearing me say it. Like, you listen to the podcast, so like there, I think we all have to have those moments in order to like, kind of surrender our human logic and our current way of thinking,
Yes.
to open our our vessels, our finite vessels up to, a higher power, which is really just our soul, which is God.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And allow that to come and be a presence in this, come down here and be a presence in this third dimensional reality,
Yes.
and for me, boy, that was my turning point, when I began to seek a new way. So I love hearing that. Like, honestly, this whole podcast, I've been asking people, like, what was your experience of surrender? You know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
And so when you shared that with me, I'm like, oh, thank you. I didn't have to ask you. You know what I'm trying to say? You just intuitively knew that. That's gorgeous. And so, and I'll say this, like, I say to women a lot is that women carry, like, with them the mitochondrial DNA. So they're a lot of times in their wombs they're dealing with not just things may happen to them based upon things that have been happening to their lineage. You know what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say? And so you're called. So we're called, and it's not even women. It's men too. Because I've I'm not sure if I've shared it yet, but like I've gone through situations as an empath where I've had to deal with, I've had to feel the emotions of being raped as a woman, as a
Yes.
man. You know what I'm trying to
Yes.
say? So I
Yes.
was in my bathtub screaming, feel just from soaking up all these traumas of slavery. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right. Exactly.
So it's like one thing that I heard you say on your YouTube channel is that we're absorbing all of this negativity to bring harmony within
That's right.
within our bloodlines.
That's right.
So I was like, when I heard you say that, I was like, ooh, she gets it. Like, yes, you get it. That's awesome. That's awesome. Because you know what? Like a lot of the work I do is just to let empaths realize that. You know what I'm trying to say? That our physical shells are going through things to straighten out things within this cosmos. You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yes.
and so like our human logic is not going to understand, like, oh, this is why I'm going through, like, because a lot of people ask the question, like, oh God, well, why would a God that loves me do this to me? And I'm trying to say it's not about it's not
It's not that way
it's
though.
exactly it's not that way. I'm trying to say it's like, and I use the example of Christ, because you got to understand that sometimes we go through suffering for the benefit of others.
That's right.
You know what I'm trying to say? So we are all that in ourselves. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
So that's an analogy for the struggles we all have to go through. You
Exactly.
know? And
And
so
can I say
go ahead.
something too? You brought up something, and as a man, that is a very courageous thing actually to say, because when you said that as an empath and you're a man, you were able to experience the physical, visceral feeling of what a woman went through her rape. So what I wanted to say to you about that is that when we have these kinds of conversations, it's with the intention as empaths for healing,
Yeah.
because I'm actually in the middle of closing a chapter where that leads to that kind of conversation that I just also finished having with my sister as well, where it's that you end up realizing that you can have different kinds of conversations that could flow differently depending on who you are with.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine you're able to empathize not only because you viscerally were able to feel it, because that's what empaths, those that are to that spectrum, can feel it like
Mm-hmm.
that. And you can then hold the space for a woman, should you either be in a relationship or not in a relationship, who were to share that story with you, and just hold the space in a way where she feels safe to say what she has to say and all of that. Because I've actually had that experience where I was in front of someone where I was triggered and I was explaining that, and they took it as though I was yelling at them, screaming at them, and attacking them. And I wasn't yelling, I was speaking from an emotional place, a place that was reactionary to my trigger. And it's amazing how the perception can distort the experience of another person, and then it blocks us from being able to hear. And how, when you look at it through the lens of, oh, you're crazy,
Yeah.
you're yelling at me, you're an angry black woman,
Mm-hmm.
versus the empathic eye looks at it like, I see you, and what that experience must be like,
Yeah.
that right now you're triggered and you're just re-experiencing. So those who don't understand what a trigger is like, whether you see a person's beard, you smell something, you hear something, it could take you back to feeling like you're physically into that trauma of a sexual violence, some type of attack, anything that really just locks you back into that place, and literally like you're in quicksand. You're
Mm-hmm.
cemented in the experience is happening all over again. So that's called post-traumatic stress disorder. That's PTSD,
Mhm.
whether you know it to have a name or not. So I just felt compelled to say that because we're in a time right now where men are looked at as weak and unemotional and all of these things for simply holding the space for people, places, and things in a way where they're saying that I see you, and they're expressing that I can they can empathize. So I just wanted to commend that you're able to share that, because it needs to be heard that it's not uncommon that men empathize in a way, because men get a bad rap, especially our Black men. So I just wanted to just give that an acknowledgement.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate. Like, I don't. The thing is, I can't speak for all Black men. I'm only myself. You know what I'm trying to say? So
Yes,
that's the thing. I think like, you got to be the change what you wish to see in the world. You know what I'm trying to say?
exactly.
So and that the beauty of understanding metaphysics is that it doesn't have to be all men or all women. You know what I'm trying to say? It doesn't have to be the majority of men or the majority of women, right?
That's right.
Because if we're all one love, one heart, right? Then then it could only be one or a few, a handful of strong souls that are here really to do the real work. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes,
So it's not really up to the masses to get it. You know what I'm trying to say? And I think when especially Black women understand that they're looking out for their men to like change in the mass on a mass level or something like that, like the real work is not going to be done on a physical level. You know what I'm trying to say? Like if all Black men, become PhDs and we all, and then what do? Create a new society and go through all hell over again? No, we're not. This is not our home. This world's not our home. You know what I'm trying to say? So
right.
I think that, a lot of, I'll speak for myself, even though the work I'm doing in this world is important, you know what I'm trying to say? It's understood by very few.
Of
So
course.
I'm not valued by most women. You know what I'm trying to say? Because most women don't understand the work that I'm doing, but I'm healing. I'm doing work to heal us. So if I ever, God forbid, ever have to reincarnate in a body, you know what I'm trying to say? I won't have to deal with the generational trauma through my mother's womb.
That's right.
You know what I'm trying to say? So and and I would say that a lot more so women are empathic. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Than men, typically speaking. So, but that's not to say that they're not male empaths. Obviously, I'm one, but I would say more so women. But that's also just biological in nature. I'm trying to say you need balance, and babies can't speak, and so women are more intuitive by nature. But don't be so finite in your thinking that you got to realize that if you're a woman, you've also had a life as a man. If you're a man, you've also had a life as a woman. So that's just something to realize that, yeah. And thanks for bringing that out. So yeah, but when that thing happened, I was living in the South in North Carolina, and I went through like a transformational experience. People talk about Kundalini experiences. Like that was a Kundalini experience for me, and I had this moment where I was holding on to so much anxiety in my body.
Yes.
That I thought it was a issue like within my stomach. Like maybe I had some kind of, because I couldn't keep food down. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I couldn't keep food down, and it was like, okay, well maybe if I can't keep food down, maybe I'll just do soups. But I couldn't keep soups down either. You know what I'm trying to say? It was like I had so much anxiety in my solar plexus. I didn't really know what a solar plexus was back then, but I was just like, everything I would eat, I would throw up. And so I was like, and I was having a hard time using the bathroom, but what I realize now is that I was holding on to so many emotions.
Yes.
From dealing with, I'm from Connecticut, and I moved down south, and I was soaking up all this trauma from slavery. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
And
right.
And I didn't know what was going on. So I'm thinking, okay, if I eat the right if I eat the right pH balance of food, maybe if I take some more probiotics, nothing was working. So I don't know, so like the energy in the house was getting really, really tense. So my girlfriend at the time, from Antigua, by the way, she left because that energy in the house was so overbearing that she could no longer bear to be there with me, because she knew something was about to happen. She knew something spiritually was about to go down, Right. And so she took off. She drove 8 hours back to Florida, because she knew something was about to go down. And boy, it was like, I told people before that I gave myself an exorcism. This is the one that happened. And basically what happened was, for whatever reason, being a man, whatever, it's hard for me to cry. You know what I'm trying to say? Right. I don't know why that is, but like we don't take to crying. We try to be strong. Right. You know what I'm trying to say? But I had to, in that moment, allow myself to cry, which was really hard for me to do. But when I did that, right, I was laying on the ground and I just started bawling. You know what I'm trying to say? And sobbing, snot crying. The thing is, you got to realize, I was in a decent, healthy relationship. I didn't have really, there was nothing in my world necessarily that was depressing. You know what I'm trying to say?
That's right. Exactly.
It was just so much shit within the ancestral trauma within my DNA that was playing itself out, the spirit of my ancestors through me. So then all of a sudden, like you've seen the movie Green Mile, when that dude has all these locusts come out of his mouth.
Oh yeah.
It was, I couldn't see myself, but it was something like that. I'm just like, I just like opened my mouth wide and just cried and let all these spirits out of through me. You know what I'm trying to say? And and I felt like, these sharp pains in my hands, you know what I'm trying to say? And the sharp pains in my feet, And I realized, oh my God, I'm going through a process right now. Like I was like stuck there on the ground, screaming and snot crying. You know what I'm trying to say? In this house. And I realized I was going through a process. I'm trying to say, of becoming, something. You know what I'm trying to say? Exactly. And so, and then after that process, that day happened. Then the next day, I was like basically shaking. I was like, I had to go in the bathtub, and I heard about taking spiritual bath, bath and things like that. I was listening to Brother Panic at the time, thank God. And so then I took the spiritual bath, and I'm in there, and that's when I went through that experience when I was feeling a woman being raped, and I knew it wasn't. I was screaming as a woman, as a man, which it was blood curdling. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. I know my screams. It wasn't my scream. You know what I'm trying to say? It was not my scream. So I was dealing with so much shit. So yeah, I understand. And men get, it doesn't have to be all men that get it. You know what I'm trying to say? I get it. You know what I'm trying to say? I've experienced it through the spirits within me. You know what I'm trying to say? So yeah, there are men out here that care. It doesn't have to be everybody. You know what I'm trying to say? Not everybody can be, and the thing is, I wouldn't want everybody to have to go through the type of shit. Realistically, I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
Exactly.
So go ahead.
I would say for myself, I've come to learn that being accountable had been the most freeing thing for me. And so when I look back at a lot of situations that have happened in my life that I was a partner to, in whatever regard it was, whether I was in school, a part of my family, or in relationships, I realized that I was accountable in ways where, your intuition, my intuition, I ignored it. It's that I knew, or I have a knowing that, you shouldn't, do certain things and go in certain places. And I say that to say that when I look back on certain conversations that I have, especially around this topic, because it's like, we hear what's going on right now in the media and how there's a lot of divisive conversation, and there's certain people that want to say certain things and they feel like they can't in their community because so many different things. So that's why for those of us who are who have decided that we're just going to speak and don't care what people are going to say anyway, because people are speaking about us or not about us anyway. So I say that the accountability has been freeing to just say and speak my story, because people are telling my story anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to have the conversation in a way that is solution, it's like with solutions that are provided, where it's like, I'm showing you that I've gone through a trauma, and then I'm hearing what your trauma is, and from there we understand like where our triggers are. Then we can be accountable for how we react or how we respond, right? And that means that it's either we know that we can hold the space for someone or we can't hold the space for someone, and then we should be accountable for being able to communicate that in some way, so that then we don't waste time, we don't waste energy for no reason in these ways where it's like then we're blaming people. And so I'm just learning that accountability for me has been like one of the keys, or one of those things that have just been like, oh wow, if I just knew this earlier, or if I just understood this earlier, my life would be so much simpler.
Give me an example, though. What do you mean by this?
By being accountable?
Yeah, but give me an example. Like what you know, like give me an example so I can understand.
Okay, so okay, so since we're already talking about this
Yeah.
whole talk
Yeah.
about ancestral trauma on
Yes.
like sexual violence and all these
Yeah.
things.
PTSS is what Dr. Joy Leary, I think his name is.
Yes,
Post traumatic slave syndrome. Yeah.
exactly. And then when we see that they have post-traumatic stress disorder, and we see how there's similarities, but
Mm-hmm.
then for us, those of the diaspora, whether we are of the Americas, the Canadas, the Caribbeans, whatever,
Yeah.
we all have experienced some type of ancestral trauma, and it resides within us.
Correct.
And so there is that. And so what that means is, as I continue to read certain books, and I will reference at this time Malidoma Some's Of Water and the Spirit, and Sabonfu Some's The Spirit of Intimacy. In their and when you look at their interviews and when you read the articles written by them or written about them, there's a lot of reference to how in African traditions, how we are perceived when we're going through certain things. And so why I say you can be accountable is that when you are growing up in a certain tradition that knows already that you have certain generational traumas, or that you've come in the world to be who you are, it allows you to grow with the understanding, because there's certain rituals, there's certain rites of passages, there's certain things that you're being prepared for within your culture.
Yeah.
And so that allows you to then be accountable, so that you're not open, because what happens when I'm reading is that some of us who come are sensitive, and as they say, oh, you're overly sensitive, you're highly sensitive, and they make it out to be a negative thing. What that sensitivity means is that we are open to receive the messages through and between the unseen and the seen.
Yeah.
And so of course we're going to be susceptible to things that make us look odd to people who don't understand or are not receptive to that. And so an individual who's growing through a world that is this type of society, that has none of these traditions,
Yeah.
has none of this culture, actually denigrates it, actually thinks that it's primitive, when as I keep saying on my page, that just means first people of its kind. It's like we have to realize that we're no longer accountable. It's like we're just walking entities, or we're fulfilling a certain narrative that does not belong to us. And so we can't be accountable really for our actions. That's why there's a lot of, putting off your problems into things outside of yourself. And so you then are not accountable. It's like you'll deal with that, and then like when you're dead, or you'll at another time, when it's about being present, it's about being in the now. That's what I mean about accountable. I don't know if that's more clear, if you wanted me to give an actual.
No, I get it. I kind of get what you're saying. You're saying like, coming to the knowledge of yourself as an empath has helped you not, buy into the, the stigmas and stereotypes of, how I put it,
Society.
Yeah, because you were saying that you've been, you were diagnosed with, what is it, bipolar? What exactly is that?
Yeah. Okay, so that's great. So exactly. So one of my family members, they have their certification in many different things. Um, so they're able to come to that assessment with their certifications,
Mm-hmm.
and they have their colleagues. I saw two of their colleagues. One of their colleagues is more like us, is more of an empath,
Mm-hmm.
and so they understand and know who I am, and they get it. Another one of their colleagues is more of the European theory, linear theory, that
Mm-hmm.
you fit these I don't know, 4 to 5 traits,
Yeah.
and so then you are bipolar,
Yeah.
and then you would be considered borderline personality as well because you would fit these traits, and then we would fling the depression in there because throughout your life you've had an experience of having a low. So how I am able to counteract the traits and explain how the differences are connected and how it's misinterpreted is that we know that this type of theory is it's brand new. It's a baby when it comes to thought.
Correct.
Nature precedes all of that, and so when we look even in shows like Star Trek, there's depictions of empaths. You look back, I can't remember in what story it was, but there's a conversation about empaths. So it's like whether there's a my thing is this really with the labels is that whether I, you, any person walks into any space and decides that we're going to plant our flag and call it this or that, it already has its own name, representation, it's already being. So even if I, you, and whoever comes, how many years and how many times and plants a new flag and calls it a new name, it already existed as it was before you. And it doesn't need, the truth is not contingent upon your belief. It's not contingent upon all of us agreeing that that's the truth. It's already being. So the whole thing with the labels is that I'm at a level of realization that I no longer need to fight with anybody about it because I understand that the same way that people can point their finger and label me and say, you're this, you're that, that same thing could be true about them in their lives and what they're hiding, they're not speaking about. And even when you are saying that you are mislabeled as being autistic
Yeah.
and all of these things, I've read and I've come to observe in myself and in all people places that like we can all have versions of being autistic or having versions of being OCD in slight little tiny ways. If you really observe different people, no matter how much intellect, no matter what PhD and doctorates they have at their name, if you really listen and observe people in their day to day, we all have little what I call isms about ourselves that could be reflective of some kind of disorder, and it makes sense because we're living in a disordered world.
Yeah.
We're not living in a natural world. We're not, like you said earlier, this is an illusion. So it makes sense that we're all walking around kind of disordered. So I actually now can laugh at the fact that people are making money off of these labels and are pushing these pills and saying that these are things when I can pick up now books and other theories, and then there's now doctors, whether they're white, whether they're black, whether they're Indian, whether they're Asian, whether they're in this generation, whether they're 20, 40 years ago that have been talking about empaths being a real thing. So we no longer have to be in a position of, oh, you labeled me this, and so now I have to wear this, and now I have to become
Yeah.
this.
It's like this badge of
And
shame, this scarlet letter.
yes, and it really is a misnomer. And I'm amused by it so much that it's like, who wants to be? You know what your name is, and no, but if your name is Lewis, right?
Yeah.
Your name is not Louise. It's not. It's not.
I
It's
know. I
not.
hated when the kids used to call me that.
There you go. We get it.
Yeah.
So it's like it's that, and so I find it amusing. So when people want to understand what the differences are, I can explain it to you to a certain extent. But my thing is the conversation ends for me when it's just constantly contrary, the person just constantly wants to put you in a box to figure out. I'm not about being in a box because empaths do not need to quantify things in order for it to be real, to understand, to know. From you're a child, it's like, yeah, you hear it, you smell it, you taste it, yeah, that makes sense. And you can kind of, break it down and say, yeah, that belongs on that. We didn't see the recipe, we didn't read we don't know the lyrics, but somehow we know, the rhythm. And others are disrupted by that.
Yeah.
How could you know when you didn't read and you didn't go to What school
Yeah.
did you go to?
Yeah.
What
There's
theory
yeah.
are you using?
It's like
Nature.
yeah, it's like I told the sister in that last interview I was having, and basically I said it takes the light to see the light,
Yes, I remember that one.
right? It's so that's the thing, they don't have the light, you know. So the thing is that, you know, they're thinking as pure intellectuals, as observers. You know what I'm trying to
Yes,
say? But there's a deeper level. You know what I'm trying to
yes,
say? It's just our natural way of thought. You know what I'm trying to say? So you know, as Africans, we're holistic thinkers. You know,
yes,
and I will go further and say that I really do believe. I should say I don't believe. I know for sure
yeah,
that at the higher levels of European society, they know that there is a spiritual battle being played out, right?
yes,
And they are at the top levels. I feel, right? I probably could prove it, you know, but I'm just gonna say I feel that every generation of new souls incoming into this world, they are labeling them things and dishing them out drugs
right.
to keep them docile and confused.
That's right.
Again, when I was even though I talk about the whole early speculations of autism, when later on in school I was labeled with attention deficit disorder as one of the
Mm-hmm.
things, and they gave me Ritalin, which is basically baby crack. You know what I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
say? And so, and what I've learned later on in life, my adulthood, is that, you know, they did that to a lot of black boys. You know what I'm trying to say? They overdiagnosed minority children, a lot of black and Latino boys
Yes.
that were quote unquote, you know. So you know, I realized that whether they know it or not, like a lot of these school systems, you know, are targeting, you know, some of them actively doing it, maybe some of them not realizing they're doing it, but they're targeting us with not just the labels, but also sometimes drugs. You
Yes.
know, so it's important that we have discussions like this to be able to, you know, inform people, because, you know, this world needs us light workers in these dark places. You know what I'm trying to say?
Exactly.
For the people like us that are growing up in this world, that are different, and you know, may not know quite what they are yet, and have, you know, found their spiritual footing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to talk about, but we're hitting almost our mark here. But and I know you have so much, so I know we're only scratching the surface here, you know?
For real.
Yeah. I feel like you have so much to say, but like, you're just like, you're like dipping your feet in here. Um, like,
Definitely.
it's okay, you know. This is the first time you've been interviewed, right? And I had or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's the first time I'm being interviewed in respect to who I am on a spiritual level.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you for that
Oh,
opportunity.
no, my pleasure, sister. My absolutely, the pleasure's mine. Um, did you want to end here? Is there anything you want to kind of leave on? Because I know we're hitting about an hour mark here, but I mean, it's up to you.
Well, it's if you have any other questions, I don't mind answering. And what I would, if we are ending, I would just wanted to say that I wanted, for me, stress. I could not be here, do any of the things that I'm doing without my family,
Mhm.
without my community, and my local community, and my international community. I'm saying that because that is, for me, the dominant key thing in my mind that really allowed me to keep going in my darkest places.
Mhm.
With that, I don't know what it takes for other people, but I know that when I reflect back in my life, no matter if it was, I could think on certain people in my family, if it was in my community, there's someone who spoke to me, and because they took that time, you know, it stuck with me. Those are the things that kept me going throughout my life, was that I had that. And of late, what was able to lead me to Maladoma Some, and his tradition of the Dagara community, that really was important, which is having my connection to my ancestors. That in 1 year, being able to understand that that was a missing element for me. I can't speak for everyone, but that was the turning point, and I can't even imagine what the future holds for myself and my family now that we have a relationship with our ancestors and with our community in a way that is like, I've dreamt it and now we're living it. And it's not even to say that it's a material thing. It's just feeling finally that all of those thoughts when you're a child of why can't we as a community and a family and a people come together and honor nature and do certain things in respect, and why aren't we doing things in a traditional way? Like right now, this is the experience that I myself and my family are having, and it for me it's the ultimate thing that I all my life, that missing element where I'm like, there's something missing, and I found it for me. So that's the thing that I had to give a shout out and make sure I don't forget to say that.
That,
So thank you.
that's beautiful to hear. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you hearing your journey. I know you have a YouTube page. Like, how would people, like, what would people type in a search engine to find your YouTube channel?
That would be Iset Asante. So that's Iset. Asante is Asante with a little accent aigu pour le français.
All
Those are
right.
like Canada. And on Instagram, that's I.set.
All right, sister. Thank you again for your time. Feel free to hit me back up anytime if you have anything that comes to you on your heart or mind. All right.
Likewise, and I thank you for the opportunity. You have a great one.
You too. Peace.
Bye.